Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Life List. This is George Armistead, and I'm here with my team members at the podcast here, Alvaro Jaramillo and Mollee Brown. We're very excited to be talking with you and excited to intro you to Mollee. And you guys have heard us talk about her a fair bit on previous episodes, but we're looking forward to Mollee telling us a little bit about herself. But I'll start off by asking my partner in crime here, Alvaro, how are you doing today?
Hey, pretty good. How are you guys?
Real good. Real good.
Yeah, doing well.
Nice. Yeah. Mollee, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe tell us a little bit about what you've been up to. I've been following your adventures of late. Quite jealous of your mode of transportation in particular. So I'm sure folks will get a kick out of hearing about that. But yeah, maybe intro yourself for the folks and tell us a little bit about what you've been up to.
Sure. Yeah. I'm Mollee Brown from West Virginia. I've lived here just about my whole life. So I've also really enjoyed birds my entire life. Grew up running around on a farm, chasing birds around the fields and woods, and eventually started looking for birds when I was traveling with my family and just when we were out and about. My basketball coach in 7th grade banded birds too. He'd just done volunteer work for a long time. So I got connected to that through him, started hanging out around banding stations and learning a little bit more about that and learning about a lot of warblers and migrants and that sort of thing for the first time in a lot of cases. And that was about it until I got to college and discovered that there was more of a birding community out there than just around the local state parks and whatnot. So I started traveling for birding in college, really got connected to the birding community, and it's been all downhill from there. So I've also worked with birding companies since 2014, and in 2017 I started my business, which is Nighthawk Agency. We do marketing and business development for birding organizations, mostly tour companies, festivals, Audubon groups, different nonprofits and conservation organizations as well. So it's really, really fun. I think about birds pretty much all the time, whether for work or play or whatever else. And I have a lot of fun with that. But yeah, lately we just bought a rooftop tent. So we've been breaking that in for the past 6 weeks or so after debating on it for pretty much the whole pandemic, and then finally pulled the trigger and got it. But that's been really fun. So lately I've just been camping and birding in any amount of free time that I've had. We went out to the Delaware Bay over Memorial Day weekend and caught some shorebird migration there, which is always one of my favorite things to do. And more recently, I just got back last night from doing some breeding bird surveys in the middle of West Virginia, and that was a lot of fun. Otherwise, I'm back in my home office now. I sit here and watch my window feeder, and there are baby thrashers and some chipping sparrows that have just fledged, and they've been hanging out outside the window all day. And that's what I've been up to most recently, is just watching them.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. It looks like it's like kind of a pop top you've got on the vehicle. Is it a Subaru you're on? I'm trying to remember. What is that? No, it's a
we
Jeep.
have a Jeep. Yeah, the Gladiator truck. So we've got a roof rack on that, and it just like unfolds like an accordion. So we can set up in about 2 minutes and be in it. And we can just close all of our bedding in and everything when we're traveling. So it's pretty nice, even if we're, getting up at 4:30 to get to our bird survey spot or whatever. And that's if we want to sit and make a cup of coffee before. But we have time to do that. So we're trying to get the most out of it.
Yeah, that looks like an awesome birding vehicle. I was like,
it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I need to get me one of those. It looks like, good for now anyway. Maybe in July, August around here, less than ideal.
Yeah. Well, we went to Delaware and we thought we were going to take the top off and just do like the Bombay Hook Drive and everything and like photograph straight from the Jeep. And it rained. I don't know how much. I think more than an inch over that weekend. So we didn't get to do that, but we still got some fun birding in.
Oh, that weekend was a disgrace. Finally, I think it was Monday, right? Was finally the nice day. It was
Yes.
like everybody was so primed, like the outdoors, everything was opened up kind of, for the first time. It felt like people were ready to rock, and then it just like poured rain for 3 days almost. So,
Yep.
yeah.
We had fun though. We got to see some really cool things. I guess Saturday we were all like jazzed up and ready to go, and we're out there driving around in the rain. But we had some really close red knots just along one of the roads there. I'm blanking on the name, but one of your main stops there on the Delaware side. We had a Virginia rail family, and I'd never seen fledgling
Those little
Virginia
black
rails.
chicks, the little tiny black chicks. Oh, they're so darn cute.
It's fantastic. They were just hanging out along the road, and we just sat there and watched them. Had a lease bittern out in the open for a long time. So it was still, that was actually our best birding.
If you squint a little bit at those little chicks, you can count them as black rails. Most people do.
People do it all the time.
All the time.
No, that's awesome. That sounds fantastic. Yeah, I spent this past weekend down on the Delmarva Peninsula, and my dad and I went out to his kind of place he's been birding since about 1950, I guess. His actually one of the first places I ever met Alvaro Jaramillo out there at Elliott Island Road. And yeah, sorry, I think my neighbor is whistling here, which is kind of interesting. But I was hoping to see, like, there's Virginia rails calling all over the place, doing their like kind of, I call it the Three Stooges call, the nyuk, 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 nyuk. We were talking about it before, Al. And I was like, there's so many around. We're going to find a family. And I was like dying to just photograph them, but like photograph those little tiny black chicks that are so absurdly cute. But no dice on that. But we saw a bunch of other stuff, like 50 plus seaside sparrows, and I don't know, just a whole bunch of eastern willets. There's about 8 blackneck stilts breeding out there. So it was real nice. And I spent the rest of the weekend attacking English ivy, trying to liberate trees around our farmhouse from English ivy, which I got some poison ivy actually for the first time in years. I haven't got poison ivy in a long time, but managed to pick some up here. So anyway, yeah. What have you been up to, Alvaro?
It's California is diverse, and you don't have to go that far to really get some different in birds and just habitats. So I had one of these situations where I had to drive my son to this spot, near Monterey, and hang out there for a few hours. And I thought, oh, what am I going to do? So I went to this birding spot nearby, and there were Cassin's kingbirds and things I don't see down up here, and it's not that far. It's just different habitats. So I was just enjoying like photographing Cassin's kingbirds and lazuli buntings, all these drier habitat birds. That was cool. That was one of the most enjoyable couple of hours that I had in the last while, because I didn't really expect anything, and suddenly I'm like, oh my God, it's like all these cool birds. But then this weekend we had our first trip to the Farallon Islands are this massive breeding colony of seabirds. And we've never gone in June. We always do trips in July and August. June tends to be a little bit worse for weather, but there's more birds. And although we had fog, the numbers of common murres were just amazing. There are 300,000 murres there. So that gives you an idea what kind of a trip it was.
That's some biomass right there.
Yeah. So that was nice. And the weather was otherwise great. It was foggy, but it was calm. But I think later we'll talk more about boats.
Yes. I always like to talk about boats. Now, is this the time of year for white sharks out there? Like, I know you've seen white shark there at least a couple times, yeah?
Yeah. No, white, like sort of the kills that happen, that sort of real big sharks that go and try to feed on mammals over there. That happens more towards October.
Okay, that's what I thought.
But right now, there are juvenile sharks that it's a new thing that started happening in Santa Cruz, where the young sharks hang out in spring. So April, May, there's now even boats going out to see these juvenile sharks, and they're just right outside the breakers. Basically, a few feet from the surfers, there's all these juvenile sharks, and weirdly enough, at that age they don't hunt mammals, so they're fishing, so they're eating fish. So theoretically, everybody gets along.
How big How big are these quote unquote juvenile white sharks? It sounds.
I think they're kind of like 7 feet long or something. 5 to 7 feet
Still
long.
big enough.
So they're not the 15 footers. So.
Right. I wouldn't be swimming around.
Yeah, it's all relative.
That's
it's
crazy
like
talk.
Seeing a small anaconda. It's still like the biggest snake you ever saw in the world.
Exactly. Yeah. Not messing with that.
That's been my fun for the. And I don't have a pop-up tent. I'm jealous too. And by the way, and if Jeep or Subaru want to sponsor this specific, podcast, we're open. Let us know.
Yeah, well, hopefully Subaru is not too frustrated with me. I was supposed to represent them at the Philadelphia Flower Show last weekend, but I had to cancel a couple days out, and so I'm sure they filled my spot, but I was disappointed. I was looking forward to it. Philadelphia Flower Show is a big deal around here. Big deal. And they were doing like little, we were doing like little bird walks. And it's kind of bummed to miss out on it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Subarus, they like the birders. I always think back about, Bill Thompson talking about the American Birding Expo. He was trying to pack everybody in there, get people to look at exhibits, and his biggest fear was someone was going to come on the loudspeaker and be like, "There's a green Subaru Outback with its lights on outside," and that the whole place was going to just empty out because it's like Priuses and Subarus. That's pretty much kind of what a lot of birders drive.
Yeah,
so,
it's the Tilly hat of cars.
It really is. Yeah. For sure.
And I say that with love.
Of course. Yeah. There's some good Tilly hat testimonials too. I encourage people to read those at some point. But so you guys are freshly back from the 50th state. How about that? Aloha, I should say.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Yeah. I'm sure you guys went to the Big Island, the Garden Island, the Garden Isle, I think they call it. I'm sure you went Mauka, you went Mackay. Tell us. I
only went to the Big Island, though.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
And Molly, you hit what? At least 3 islands, right?
Yeah, we started on Oahu and then went to Kauai and finished up on Big Island.
Nice. Yeah.
And it was your first trip to Hawaii, correct?
First trip. Yep.
You got to tell us what you thought. What was your sort of everybody has an image of what it's going to be like, right? And sometimes it's completely off. And apart from just the place and the birds, the feel for Hawaii and whatever, what were your thoughts after visiting?
So before I visited Hawaii, it was really not a place that was on my radar at all until I got more into birding. And like I said, when I started wanting to travel for birding too, because that is not my typical scene when you think about your sort of stereotypical Hawaiian vacation and the tourists and the beaches and the crowds. And that's not what interests me at all. But then I got into birding and would do, as probably a lot of birders do, kind of pick a bird that I hear something about and get on some sort of deep dive of research on where they are and what their population status is and where to find them, and started learning a lot about these different birds that are the last remaining endemics of Hawaii, and learning about where they were, and then learning about the different, I guess I'll say off the beaten path for tourists, but the native forests of Hawaii. And then it just shot up to the top of my list of places I wanted to go to, because it completely fascinates me to see unique places like that. Island evolution completely fascinates me. And then you have the urgency of the fact that the habitat and the birds are declining so quickly. So I was so excited to have the opportunity to go there. And then after despite all that research, I really don't think I was prepared to see how quickly habitat can change and how rapidly you can see it decreasing and how hard you have to work to find native birds. And so it was just completely mind-blowing. It was wonderful, and it was very, I would say, astounding and sad at the same time. I think it just really made me reflect on making good out of birding and going from that level of enjoying the birds and then really taking it a step farther. And if you care about the birds and care about the planet, then you can see how urgent it is to do something about the climate change and the habitat change and the destruction that humans are causing everywhere.
Yeah.
So that was that was a sort of
it's a big scope.
Deeper part of that too. Yeah. But
yeah, it is a crazy situation there. I mean, I think I'm sure one of the things I always liked best are the bird names, right? Like they're just fun names, you know. The EEV has got to be one of the best birds in the world, you know. They're just, you know, brilliant things. And bright red, curved bill, black and white wings, bill's like a sickle, you know, just like, and they make those little, of course it's an onomatopoeic name, right? They say it goes EEV, EEV. And then, but then they also have that one that sounds like a car horn a little bit, right? It kind of goes like beep, beep. Yeah. Yeah. And and all those birds are just, I mean, the Aki for short, but the Akipola, what is the Akiapola owl? That was always a favorite one. You guys got to see that, right? I think, Molly, you got some good pictures of that.
Yeah, I got some fun video.
I'm going to put you on the spot here, George, because you're the guy with the big words. Do you remember the name of the state fish of Hawaii?
Oh, Alvaro, softball. Did I put you on the spot? And you're not ready for this? Such a softball, man. Come on, you know how I roll. It's the humu humu nuku nuku apua'a.
Okay, well done.
It's one of my favorite words. The humu humu nuku nuku apua'a. Yeah, it's also called like the painted triggerfish or something, right? Which would be a lot easier, but not nearly as fun as humu humu nuku nuku apua'a.
Yeah. Now, you know, Hawaii, to me, one of the things that was amazingly disturbing that, you know, with discussing the trip with Molly and Mandy Talpas, you know, who's the other co-leader of that trip, was when they were going through some of these places that back in the day and not that long ago that George and, you know, and myself, right, we used to do that trip, same spots, same places, and they've radically shifted in the numbers of birds. And we even saw it back in when we were doing the trips. Particularly, I remember the Akeke'e, right? Mm-hmm. That was it's what they also call Kauai Akepa.
Right.
It's a, you know, beautiful kind of yellowish orange bird that's got a slight little cross on the bill and
little black face.
Black face, and it sort of feeds in little leaf buds of the Ohia lehua. And then it used to be common, and you would, it was one of those things that you'd roll up at the parking lot up there, and they were just around.
Yeah, it was a drive-up bird.
You know, drive-up bird, and now it's not. It's super hard. You, like Molly was saying, you got to work for these things, and this has only been in about a decade. It's crazy. And I think I want to say mainland birders are unaware at the level of decline that's happening, and there's almost no real avenue to do something, you know, other than, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know what does one do right now other than support the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, you know, with our taxes but what do you do? There's, you know.
Yeah. You hear so many reports, you know, we've all seen the numbers of bird decline across the world, but I've never seen it presented so starkly. Now, like I said, this was my first time visiting Hawaii, so I'm not comparing this to my previous experience like you all are, but here, West Virginia's second breeding bird atlas just came out. So it's a beautiful piece of work. It's a gorgeous book. But I was just looking through it today, and I was looking at just going through the warblers and looking at the decline. And prairie warbler has just had, I don't have the numbers to quote, but just a very drastic decline. And I was thinking about that, and I feel like you can still find a prairie warbler in the right prairie warbler habitat if you look out here. And I can't really comprehend what that would look like if there were 6-8 times as many as there were not too long ago. But in Hawaii, you can see it so starkly because it's just so, the habitat changes are so drastic and quick that you can really see the decline because they're such habitat specific birds in such a unique place.
Yeah. And with Hawaii, it's in some places, what's even more troubling is that the actual trees haven't changed, but the entire climate regime has changed because of global climate change. So mosquitoes have moved up. This is sort of one of the major deals, and moved up in elevation, and the mosquitoes carry avian malaria. And it used to be there was a line, kind of the mosquito line, and if you were above
like 3,000
that
feet in Kauai, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, and you were above that line, you were safe. You were not going to get avian malaria. So all these beautiful native, Hawaiian birds were out there, and now that line's moved up. So each time there's a little smaller and smaller little snippet of the island that is mosquito free.
It's like a shrinking island, basically.
And it's crazy. And I think some people are working on some genetically modified mosquitoes to try and curb this situation, but it's just alarming because it is part of the U.S., right? It's, richest country on earth. And yet we're allowing this entire state's avifauna to go down the drain. And I just think, like, if we can't figure this out, how are we going to be going and, knocking on the door of the Philippines or something, and say, hey, protect your birds, your habitat, and so forth. If we can't do it, to me, it's like, it's not just the fact that we need to preserve those birds, but we need to be the leader, right?
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, of course, the big story that came this week was the akikiki, right? That what is also called the Kauai creeper, but the akikiki went in. The last census was 2018. I think the previous census before that was 2014. And both years of those census, that bird had 35 pairs. And this year was the first census since 2018, and they're down to 3 pairs, which is just incredibly shocking, precipitous decline. I mean, basically, I guess they have over 40, I think, at the San Diego Zoo, and they've been, moving eggs from the wild population to this population there for a number of years. But I think that population's only produced like 3 young in over, I don't know, X many years. I don't know how long it's been going on there. But it is, you look at this, there is this group, right? It's called Mosquitoes Not Birds, or if you Google like mosquito birth control, which sounds like an awesome band name, but it's like there's something. It sounds like what they want to do is drain the natural bacteria from the southern house mosquito, which occurs there, right? Which people brought, right? Mosquitoes were never there, but they were brought by humans centuries ago, and it developed this avian malaria, which they've been spreading to birds, not people. And
that was through chickens that originally arrived.
That's right? Because that's what do they call it? What was the chicken there? The pua,
moa.
Right? Yeah,
moa.
The moa. That's right. Yeah, not to be confused with the New Zealand moas. But I think
they all taste like moa.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to take your advice on that, Alvaro, being that like the other 14 species of moas have all been extinct for centuries. But
maybe they tasted better than moa.
Who knows, right? Yeah. Some of them were like 14 feet tall, right? Some of those New Zealand ones, like huge. Haast's eagles zooming down and picking them off. But yeah, it sounds like they want to drain the bacteria of the natural bacteria and replace them with this other bacteria, which, if passed on from the males to the females, would basically greatly reduce the number of mosquitoes. And I'm like, how do we make that happen overnight? Like imagine if we actually could save the akikiki. Like if we could, get the Biden administration to like make this a huge priority, because there's nothing else going on right now, right? And but imagine if we actually saved these birds. Like as you say, the habitat is still there, and that's usually the problem. We actually have the habitat for the most part, right? Like a little different for the palila, which really is hampered by not having as much habitat. But for a lot of these kwai birds, the habitat's there. That's just this avian malaria is knocking them off. It's tough.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I think, hopefully people are listening out there. And one of the things that we just want to have you know is that there is a problem out there that you may have not known. It's part of the U.S. And, let's start communicating on what, maybe it's this mosquito project that we have to support, or how do we fund this? How do we get political interest in it? Because it's things that happen on this distant island seem like, to most people, it's not relevant. But if you're a birder, it should be relevant.
Yeah, they're American birds we're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I forget how many total birds are on the American endangered species list, but I think something like a third or half, right, are in Hawaii, and these are American birds that we're just watching disappear. Pretty tough.
Just to lighten the mood, though, I want to say that, can you imagine if we had, Spanish-speaking bird guides, and this bird actually comes back in population? We could have the hills ringing out with "Está aquí el akikiki." Aquí el akikiki.
It's a lot of vowels there. A lot of vowels.
I know.
To enunciate.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's tough. It's tough stuff. We need to talk about it, but it is kind of depressing, and that's not where we don't want to depress you. We want to incite you into some kind of thought.
But yeah, I guess we don't want to dwell on it too much, but I think, encouraging people to maybe contact the representatives about trying to save these Hawaiian birds, which are American birds, which we're losing. That'd be a good thing to do. One of the cool things, though, that you can see on Hawaii, and I think is a bit more of a success story, are the seabirds. And that is, those are really fun and really cool and really good looking. And some of them are pretty imperiled as well, but there's real progress being made with seabirds throughout the world, really, seabird conservation. They also live a really long time, which is nice. They get a lot of different chances to reproduce. So that's nice. And I know, Mollee, you got to do your lifer pelagic, right, out there in Hawaii. What was that like?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I have wanted to be out on the ocean so much. I did some deep sea fishing when I was, middle school, high school, would just, go off the East Coast and do that a little bit. And at one point, I don't know, in my third or fourth year, I just got so seasick, and it just went downhill from there. I tried a few more times. I tried doing short excursions for fishing when I was younger, and couldn't do it. It was like, some of the most miserable moments of my life are when I was on those boats seasick.
One of the old saying, right, is that like at first you're afraid you're going to die, and then you're afraid you're not going to die.
Yeah. I really thought about jumping off a few of those boats and just attempting to swim. But anyway, yeah, so I was really excited. I thought this was a good place for me to try as far as easy weather conditions and that kind of thing. So I took a bunch of medication and tried not to get too nervous about it, and went out and had a fantastic time. It was just really fun, from my perspective, a nice constant flow of birds, and it was really interesting the entire time. Didn't really get bored. I did fall asleep for a little bit, but that wasn't out of boredom. That was just the nice Hawaii weather and a ton of Dramamine, I think. So yeah, first impressions, it was just a really, really fun day. And that's not to say that the birding wasn't just amazing too. I love the birds that we got.
Yeah, it's
the boat nap is one of the best naps you can have.
It's like so soporific
nice.
being out there. It's like just the motion of the boat. You're just like, it sort of lulls you to sleep. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, we were kind of out at like our turnaround spot, and I remember you went back to check the chum, and I curled up, and next thing I knew, we were on our way back and nobody was there. So I was really nervous that I'd missed something, but I hadn't. I really don't know how long I was asleep, actually.
It's the best. No, for me, a couple of things about the Hawaii pelagics that I was able to be in on. It was that we had done pelagics in the past with George and Kauai and Oahu, and these are smaller islands, so they don't have that much of a wind shadow, sort of the lee effect. So it actually was pretty choppy, and Kauai can get pretty choppy at times. But the Big Island is they call it the Big Island for a reason, and it's a huge island. So on the Kona side, there's this area of flatter ocean, less waves, but you're incredibly deep water. I mean, I think we were at one point in time water that was deeper than the highest mountain in North America.
Wow.
So that gives you an idea.
And it was still calm there.
And it was still calm. I mean, yeah, it wasn't bad at all. And to me, I was like, okay, this is great. So we have this scenario where you can actually go into deep water and get out there in moderate sized boats. And the first trip, I just couldn't believe how much we saw. And, it was like the record number Hawaiian petrels that had been seen since anybody remembered, in Hawaii.
Still haven't seen that bird.
Local people were like, "Oh, that doesn't happen. We usually see like 3, and I don't know how many we saw. Like
I'm shooting Alvaro nasty looks because I still haven't seen that bird."
So yeah, and the other thing for me was, somebody who goes out a lot on boats, just to see a bird that I had always wanted to see, couldn't imagine what it was going to look like in real life, was the Bulwer's petrel, which is this all dark. And you think, why would you be excited? It's a brown bird. But it's got this shape, and it's got this
the contours of that thing. Yeah.
Contour. Yeah. It's like, I don't know. I can understand when
it's like a bat or a nighthawk.
Yeah. Something.
Yeah. They're cool.
Car people talk about the lines on a car, whatever. I don't get into that, but I get it because I see the lines on a bird like that, like the streamlined nature. And I got thrilled by Bulwer's petrels. And yeah, we even
you see more than one
after that. What's that?
You see more than one?
Oh, we saw a whole bunch. I mean, we it was a lot. I don't know. I don't remember how many, but
like
maybe
dozens.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I've only seen one. I think the only one I've ever seen was off Kauai. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great time, that time of year. I think when we did the trips, George, we were a little earlier. This time of year in April is fantastic. And I think, we've been talking, with Mandy about doing in the fall, sometimes just, another set of pelagics that people could go and visit, just to do sort of multiple pelagic trips out there. It's pretty
all the
wild.
Juvenile birds out then probably too.
Yeah. And we saw sperm whale.
I was going to say, what about mammals? You guys get any mammals?
Sperm whale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
cool.
organ of spermaceti.
Yeah.
That's that huge, like cavernous, weird organ. I guess it's designed to for them to withstand the pressure of diving down and fighting giant squids at, depths untold.
Yeah.
I just think it's so cool. There's something called the organ of spermaceti. It's, sort of, it's up there with like the loops of Henle and, some of these other weird biological.
Yeah, there's the ampullae of Lorenzini.
Oh, good one, Al.
That's on sharks. Ampullae of Lorenzini.
Yes. Are those like the little dots in the skin? Or those
in the nose? Yeah, and they're like electrical receptors.
Yeah, that's right. So. I forgot about those. Man, that is some serious nerd stuff there. Well done. Impressive. Yeah.
Did you just call me a nerd?
Yeah, man. Takes one to know one. Yeah.
But Hawaii, the whole idea of pelagic trips in Hawaii, even though people have been doing them for years, it hasn't really been kind of California. Everybody knows, California. You visit California, you got to do a pelagic trip, and a lot of birders have been visiting Hawaii for a while and not doing pelagic trips. But I think now one of the things that did shift with the ABA, incorporating Hawaii into the ABA list, is not only that, people are interested going out there for the ABA list, but the seabirds have become much more prominent because there's many more seabird species that you can see there that you can't see anywhere else.
Yeah, some of those Cocolaria types.
The land birds, Yeah. So it's that's been good, and as you said, it's been a conservation success story in that many seabird populations have been protected by predator-proof fencing and all this kind of stuff. So it's not all bad news in Hawaii. There's been amazing good news on the seabird front.
Nice. I'm hoping my almost 2-year-old neighbor upstairs, Dylan, sounds like he's having a little bit of a rough day. So hopefully that doesn't come through too much on our broadcast. But yeah, the city living, such is life. Yeah. Well, I was jealous. I was seeing your pictures of seabirds out there, and yeah, I think you guys know, we were talking a little bit I went down to North Carolina, do some pelagics with our friend Brian Pattison and Kate Sutherland, the seabirding group, and was pretty excited about that. Quite different than the Pacific pelagics you're accustomed to out there, Alvaro. But they did see, I like a few days before I was due to go out, I saw Brian posted a nice picture of a wedge-tailed shearwater. And I thought, oh, cool, Brian's posting some of his old Hawaii photos. That's pretty neat. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. This was off North Carolina today. And first Atlantic record ever anywhere in the Atlantic Ocean of wedge-tailed shearwater. And they had a nice pale morph cruising along. I think they had it for I guess they had it for like 10 minutes almost, I think. But that was pretty wild. I was bummed to have missed that by a couple days. But man, I was set to do 4 trips. The last one we got blown out. But 3 beautiful days. Adult long-tailed Jaegers, lots of South Polar skuas following the boat at length. And of course, always the star of the show, the black-capped petrels. And we had one day where they were hungry, the black-capped petrels, Pterodroma. We were talking about the shape of birds, right? And Pterodroma genus of petrels means winged runner. And I always think of those as like the sports cars of the bird world. They're built for speed and agility, and they can really move. And there was one day the blackcaps, they were hungry and they were zipping around close, and it was pretty impressive. Managed to get some really nice photos. I was thrilled about that. But yeah, enjoyed some time offshore as well. We didn't have too much in terms of the mammals this time. We did have some Gervais beaked whales, like real quick, just like, they just kind of popped up like twice, sounded. It was a little rough though. We weren't able to catch up with them. And then we had some offshore bottlenose, which are quite different than the ones everybody sees from shore. There's right along the shore, you see these like little bottlenose dolphins. and they just hang around inshore. The offshore ones are much bigger. They're like 2 or 3 times bigger, it seems like. I don't know. That might be, I think they are over 2 times bigger. They certainly seem quite a bit larger. I'm sure there are different species, as many have postulated before. But that was pretty cool. Not quite the same as your West Coast trips out there, Alvaro, where you guys have to bundle up every day. We enjoyed pretty nice weather off Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, and Hawaii is the same thing. It's like, shorts weather pelagic, and if I could get used to that, I, got to say it's kind of, I mean, it was nice, but here often middle of summer or the fall, it can be freezing cold, where you've got layers upon layers, people wearing, woolen hats, or as Canadians call it, a toque. And you're getting your toque out there and looking for albatrosses and so forth. But that cold water, it is the key. It's the food is in that nutrient-rich water. So that's where the humpback whales are, and blue whales, and all this kind of stuff, and the krill. And this year it's actually particularly cold, and the food is really building this year. Like it's looking like a great year. But yeah, we freeze our butts off on the trips here. And sometimes it's kind of choppy too. Not always, actually. Fortunately, the winds always come from the same direction, basically. So we have predictable situation on winds. Just like, in Hawaii, they have the trade winds are coming in from the specific direction most of the time. But that's one of the things I would always I was a little freaked out about with North Carolina. The winds can shift to any direction. So you don't know if you're battling the wind on the way out, it could be that the weather changes and you're battling the wind on the way back. You can't predict like, we're going to put in our time now, and then it's all going to be pushing us along on the way home, like we can do here. So that's different. But
yeah, some more variables in play.
Shorts on.
Yeah. Definitely more variables in play down there in Carolina. Brian's really good at reading the weather and having a sense of what we can and can't get away with out there. He gets us back. But love spending time offshore. It's I always say seabirding is the hardest kind there is. It's the birds are moving, you're moving. The light is tricky. Tough to get a read on a lot of these things. A lot of them are studies in black and white and gray. They're not, it's not like there's painted bunting sitting around out there on fence posts. It's unfamiliar birds and difficult terrain. But man, they put on such a show, and they are such inspiring birds. That's why you got things like the Rime of the Ancient Mariner and so forth.
Yeah, and there are some of these birds that you have essentially, you have them all day, multiple views and so on. Great. But there's other birds on a pelagic sometimes that it's like a 2-second window or 5-second window. You have to get on that bird, and it's called out, 2:00, something's going, this is going through. We had Newell shearwater that way, that it just, if you were up front, and this is a very rare Hawaiian bird, seabird endemic, you were at front of the boat and you were looking and you were paying attention, you saw this thing kind of zip off, but it's tough, and you don't get a second shot. You can't chase anything down, really. You don't, unless there's chumming going on and there's a specific, species that comes to chum, that maybe you're, shot at it again. But, oh man, that level of unpredictability is frustrating, but it's also addictive, right? Because if it was so predictable, you wouldn't be all that, it wouldn't be fun. You just
it's a roll of the dice. Yeah.
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 It is frustrating.
Yeah. You might lose your toque in the wind. You never know what's going to happen.
That's right.
Yeah. We used to call those Jaques Cousteau hats. It's like just like me and my friends, we called them Jaques Cousteau hats. You know how Jaques Cousteau always had like the little blue, navy blue toque.
Yeah, and it was kind of small for his head.
It was too small for his head usually. Yeah.
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 So it was a look. It was a thing.
Yeah, it's a pretty slick look, if you could pull it off. Yeah. Well, guys, we are at 45 minutes here, and I think we should probably wrap up for the day. But always good catching up with you, Alvaro, and really good to catch up with you, Mollee, too. Nice for folks to hear more about you and learn more about you. We will do this again in the not too distant future, I'm sure.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, it was good fun.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll do more of these roundtables, especially as we get out, and I think recently we'd had quite a bit to chat about. So nice to chat today, guys, and good to chat with everybody here on Life List. And yeah, we'll be back at you soon with more information. So long, guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.